What better thing to do on a Zeis Chanukah than to have a double portion of learning? Wow. We came the mitzvah of Dibarta Bam, learning Torah Lishma, Lasais, Nachas Ruach Liyotzreinu. We're starting at the very top of Daf Tzadik Tesam and Aleph. And the Gemara.
Can we just do Refuah Shleima, Mordechai Tzvi ben Rosh Chana, please?
Mordechai Tzvi ben Rosh Chana should have Refuah Shleima b'Seich Shecher Yisrael.
Thank you.
David Menashe Halevi.
David Menashe Halevi.
And Rachel.
Ben Rachel.
Thank you.
So the Mishnah said that a Tful Yom, that somebody that touched the sheretz went to the mikveh, but is not fully tar until nightfall. So before nightfall, we said that he's not entitled to get a chelik of the karbanos. So the Gemara says, Minani Mili, how do I know this? Amarei Shlakish to Amakra, the pasuk says, HaKayin HaMechate Osa, the Kayin who does the sprinkling, Yaichlena. Tful Yom cannot do the sprinkling. So we darshan kayan amachata yaichel she'ena machata, but if he can't do the sprinkling, eina yaichel. Says the Gemara, the klalahu vari mishmara kula, and the Rishonim say this really means the base of. The whole base of doesn't do the sprinkling, yet the base of that day all gets a portion. Vari mishmara kula the eina machaten, they don't do the sprinkling, yet va'aychlen they get a portion. Says the Gemara, we don't mean actually sprinkling. We mean roi lechita kamrinan. You have to be fit for sprinkling. And therefore, since the Tful Yom is not fit for sprinkling, he doesn't get a portion. Says Gemara, well, Hari Cotton, a minor kayin, the ain't a roi lechita, as a minor, he can't do the sprinkling, yet v'oichel. Elamai yoichlena, what does it mean, eat? It means Yechalkena, take a portion. Now the cotton doesn't get a portion. Right? Says the Gemara, Roi Lechitoi, if he's fit to sprinkle, Chaylik, he gets a portion. She'ena Roi Lechitoi, if he's a Tful Yom, so he's not fit for sprinkling, Eina Chaylik. Right away there's an obvious question. But a Balmum gets a portion, but he's not fit to do the sprinkling. Hari Balmum, the Eina Roi Lechitoi, he's not fit for sprinkling. Balmum can't do the avodah, and yet v'chaylik says Gemara, the Balmum is different. There's a ribui. Balmum rachmana ravye. Balmum, the Torah includes him. Kol zachar b'kehanim. Every male, it says kol l'rabbis Balmum. Says the Gemara, ve'ema. Could I finish my sentence? Ve'ema, says the Gemara, but say that the kol comes to include Tful Yom. Ve'ema kol zachar l'rabbis Tful Yom. Says the Gemara, well, mistavra balmum havelei l'revuye, because the balmum is allowed to eat it. Shekein eichel. Says the Gemara, adarabah, Tful Yom havelei l'revuye, because in the night he's already going to be able to do the avodah. The l'urta michzeh chazi, he's allowed to do even the sprinkling. Says Gemara, but the main fact is hashta mia haloi chazi. Now he's not fit, and since now he's not fit, we don't include him from kol. Rather, we include from kol only the balmum. Rav Yosef Amar. Rav Yosef says a different shot. Rav Yosef Ayma Ma yoichlena, what does it mean yoichlena? We said it means yichalkena, to take a portion. So then why doesn't it say in the pasuk yichalkena? Lichtav rachmana yichalkena. Ma yoichlena. Shmami no, of those that you're going to include, roi lachila chaylek. One who is fit to eat gets a portion. The balmum is fit to eat. She'ena roi lachila, the tful yom, einoi chaylek. Okay, what do you want to ask, Rabbi Kranz?
Just wanted to clarify. So it comes out that when it's full yom, after he becomes tar, even though he doesn't get a portion, he could eat from somebody else's.
Yes.
That's what.
Yes. Now, Boy Reish Lakish. What about, here's an interesting conundrum. Boy Reish Lakish. Balmum v'hu tameh. If he's a balmum and he's tameh, in the night he's going to be able to eat. So ma'ushi yechalik loy. Could we give him a portion? Now, if he was just tameh, he wouldn't get a portion. But kevan chazi, since he's not fit, v'rachmana ravya, and the Torah said even though he's not fit, he's included. Loishnam, then mali tameh, mali balmum. What's the difference? He's unfit. What's the difference if he's a balmum just or he's also tameh? We included him. Oy dilma, roy lachila chaylik. Only somebody that could eat that day gets a portion. She'ena roy lachila, since he can't eat because he's tameh, eina chaylik. I'm a rabba. So Rabbi brings a conclusive proof. This is a conclusive proof. Tajma, Kayin Gadol Makriv Einen. A Kayin Gadol could offer up a carbon even when he's an Einen. They say the Ragachav, famous Ragachaver, Gain, Zechatzadik Levrachas Chusi Yagan Aleinu, says it's a raya that Avram Avinu was a Kayin Gadol. Because once he shechted Yitzchak, he would become an Einen. How would he finish the Avodah? It must be that Avram was a Kohen Gadol, and a Kohen Gadol is allowed to do the Avodah when he's an Einen. So it says Kohen Gadol Makriv Einen, but ve'ena Eichel, he can't eat. Ve'ena Chelik Lechel Le'erev, and he doesn't even get to eat it in the night. So here, even though he's able to do the Avodah, but since he's not fit la'achila, he can't get in the night. Shmami no roi la'achila ba'inan. And therefore a balmum who's tameh, who's not fit to eat, does not get to eat it in the night. Shmami no. Oh, but now, the Gemara has a different shayla. Now, we know tumah hutra b'tzibur. That tumah, if the majority of the tzibur is tameh, then the tameh is allowed to do the avodah. You should know, however, that if a tameh does the avodah is good, but you're not allowed to eat the carbon. But let's say the majority of the tzibur is tameh, but a tar from the miyat did the carbon. Can a person that's tameh get a chelik to eat it in the evening? Because if he wanted to, he's right to do the avodah. So by Rav Aisha, tameh b'karbana tzibur ma'ushi yechol kulai. Can he get a portion from the evening? Mi amrinan hamachate yamarachmana. The Torah says that the critical point is that he should be able to do the sprinkling. V'hanami mechatehu. He could do the sprinkling because tumotra b'tzibur. Only if he's fit to eat, he gets a chelik. He's not fit to eat now because he's tameh. So again, the Gemara brings the same raya from the Kohen Gadol. He could do the akrava when he's in Einen on the day that he lost a relative, but he can't eat. And he doesn't get a portion to eat in the evening, even though he could do the avodah. But since he can't eat, he has to be fit to eat it, and therefore, even though the tumah hutra b'tzibur, since he's not allowed to eat, he can't get a portion for the evening. Now, the Mishnah says, "Einen nageya ve'enay makriv." The einen could touch the carbon, but he cannot offer it. So the Gemara says, yeah, he could touch it. Well, that's not like what we learned in Masechtas Chagiga. Says the Gemara, Einen nageya v'ramini einen u'mechusei kippurim, and einen, that somebody that lost a relative, and a person who counted his 7 days but did not yet bring his carbon on the 8th day. Tzrichen tefillah l'kaidish. In order to touch kachim, you need tefillah. So you see that an einin just can't touch. So Amar Rabbi Yochanan, so Rabbi says, name Rabbi Yochanan is a simple fix, like kasha. Kam b'shit tovel, kam b'shaloi tovel. One is talking about where he's tovel. So if he's tovel, he could touch. There where it says that he can't do it, it's talking about where he wasn't tovel. Says the Gemara, but I don't understand. Even if he's tovel, since he's still an einin till the end of the day, his aninus returns and would negate his tefillah. V'chi tovel mayhave, ha'hodra le'aninus, the aninus just comes bouncing back. Dama Rabba Baba Arfuna, einin shetovel, an einin that's tovel, aninusay chayzeres olav, the aninus returns. Says the Gemara, it's a whole different kettle of fish here. You see, an einin should be able to touch kachim. The problem is that for kachim, you can't be distracted from guarding yourself from tumah. So, like kasha had the asik daite, one is where he was masiach das. So if he's masiach das, so then when he's distracted, so then in order to be able to eat, he would have to be toivel. If he wasn't distracted, then he doesn't need tefillah. Says the Gemara, yeah, but if he was distracted, and he might have touched a mace because he's an einin, so then it's not enough tefillah. You need the mechatis on the third and the seventh day. You need to have sprinkling on the third and the seventh day, which is the din of a tamei mace. If a person was distracted and he might have become tamei mace, says the Gemara, he wasn't that distracted. He was only distracted from not being careful to touch a sheretz. He wasn't so distracted that he might have touched a corpse. There, that needs hazar shlishi ushvi. Oh, then you only need tefillah. Says the Gemara, I should put up a sign. Do not interrupt in middle of a sentence. Says the Gemara, we have to remember we have a lot of people listening, and they're trying to keep the train of thought. When you ask in the middle, you break the train of thought, which we already did. So now we're going to have to go back and get the train of thought. The Gemara says, so you want to tell me that where is tefillah enough? Tefillah is enough. If he's just masiach das from a sheretz, but even if he's masiach das from tumah sheretz, tefillah is not enough. You need to wait till nightfall then. Says the Gemara, tamei sheretz, tamei ma'al yehu. That's regular tumah. And then herav shemesh boy. You would need even to wait until nightfall. And furthermore, if this is true, then this would not just be a din by kachim, this would be a din by truma too. You should need tefillah. But it says only tzrichen tefillah l'kaidish, and not the truma. But if there's a hesed das from sheretz, then that would be a problem for truma too. V'ayid afilu truma nami. So it's a tangled web that we're spinning over here. Says the Gemara, 3 lines from the bottom of Tzadik Tes Amud Aleph. Amar Reb Yirmiyah, you know what Barry said? Ba'aymer nishmarti midavar ha'metameini. I was careful from something that was metamei mi tumah daraisa. V'loy nishmarti midavar ha'poisleini. But I wasn't careful to something that will possibly for achilas kachim d'Rabbanan. Now, once it's only achilas kachim d'Rabbanan, it doesn't apply to truma, and there's no need for Erev Shemesh. So the Gemara says, Rav Miller had the ability to do things in fragments of a minute. He used to say, think 30 seconds about Olam Haba. He would say, think 30 seconds, I love you, Hashem. He was able to do things in fractions of a minute. The Gemara says, are there people that watch themselves from that which is biblical, but not from which is Drabanan? Is there such a thing? Says the Gemara, Mi ikan tirusa lapalga? Is there watching for a part? Says the Gemara, in Vatanya, we learned in a Brisa, Oideyu asal al roisha. Get this imagery. Barry is walking with a basket on his head. The basket has a cap, and it's sitting on his head. And he's walking with a basket on his head. Rashi says it's a metal basket. Barry has a hard head, right? And in the basket is dried figs stuck to one another. And inside is also a fig shovel. And Barry said, Libi alasal, I was careful not to be metame the basket. It's a metal basket, so it could be makabel tama. But ve'ein libi ala magrefa, I didn't have in mind to protect the shovel. So the din is hasal tar, the basket is tar, v'magrefa tameya, and the shovel is tummy. Says the Gemara, v'tetame magrefa l'sal. If the shovel is tummy, then why isn't the shovel metame the basket? That's easy. Ein keli metame keli. A keli is not metame keli. Says the Gemara, v'tetame mashe b'seichai. But why do we say that only the shovel is tummy? The fig should become tummy. V'tetame mashe b'seichai. The tummy dika shovel should be metame the figs. Amarava. So here we see how mamish a person, Barry, could split himself. Ba'aymer shmartia midover hametama. I was protected it from something that it would render it on a level of tumah that it could transmit further. V'loy shmartia midover apaisla. But I didn't protect it from something that would disqualify it. Tameh means that it could transmit further. Pasul means it's the end of the line. That's why chulin is pasul when it becomes a sheni. Truma is pasul when it becomes a shlishi. Kachim is pasul when it becomes a revi. That's the end of the line. Igalgal milsa, this matter rolled around. Umatoy likami to Rabbi Abba bar Mamo, and it came to Rabbi Abba bar Mamo. So he said there's another simple answer over here. Why we say that the Tful Yaim can touch karbanas, but it needs tefillah. Amalei lo shmiel luhu hada amar Reb Yochanan, that which Reb Yochanan said in the name of Rebbe, hada amar Reb Yochanan amar Rebbe. Here you either have to have an art scroll or you have to know the years, because it could equally be Amar Rabbi Yochanan Amar Rav, but Rabbi Yochanan doesn't quote Rav. Rabbi Yochanan quotes Rebbe, right? So, Laishmilu had Amar Rabbi Yochanan Amar Rebbe ha'eichel shlishi shel truma. Now remember, we said shlishi by truma is the end of the line, but they made a takana that if you eat a shlishi of truma, Asur lechel, you're not allowed to eat truma. You passel your body for truma, but umutar liga, but you're allowed to touch it. So you see that there's a difference between touching and eating. Alma achila of rabbanim maila. By achila, the rabbanim made a maila that you need tefillah, and that's why it says in Chagiga that the Tful Yaim needs tefillah for kachim. That means in order to be able to eat it. Benegia, but for touching, lo avid rabbanan ma'ila. Of course, the tefil yom, when it needs tefillah, still would not be able to eat kachim until nightfall. Now, the einoi chaylik lechel, and the din is that the oinen cannot take a portion to eat it that evening. Now, Rabbi Kranz mentioned this. He can take a portion to eat it in the evening, but in the evening he could join somebody else and eat his kachim. Miflagu deloy polik. However, if Mel invites the Tful Yom in the evening to eat kachim, he could eat it. He just can't take during the day because then he's not fit to eat, so he can't take a portion. But v'chi mezamnelei achel. So that means that Tful Yom could eat kachim in the night. Says the Gemara, really? And not a Tful Yom, an Einan. An Einan can eat kachim in the night. Says the Gemara, really? Vermini, Einan toivel. An Einan could be toivel v'oichles pischai le'erev. And he could eat the Pesach in the evening. You know why? Because Pesach is in Issachar. So in Mekel, since Aninas Laila is only the Rabbanan, and Pesach is in Issachar, so the Rabbanan didn't make their decree by Issachar. Avaloi bekachim. So it seems to be Mel can't invite him in the night. Amar Reb Yirmiyah medifti like kasha kam bePesach kam b'shayim ma'isashan. One is on Pesach, one is in the rest of the year. You know, because on Pesach there are other kachim in the night. You know, you could have at the table the chagiga. So, bePesach, since he's allowed to eat the korban Pesach, we allow him to eat other korbanos too. Aidi the achel Pesach, achel nami kachim. So when it said over there that he can't eat Michailik in the day, which implies, but he could eat in the night, that's talking about the night of Pesach. Since he's allowed to eat the Pesach, we already allow him to eat other korbanos too. B'shayim ha'isashana the loichazi, where he can't eat, then loichazi. Umay avoloi bekachim, it means avoloi bekachim shel kol hashana, that an einin can't have kachim the rest of the year. Rav Asi makes a difference. Rav Asi says it depends when the day of death was. If the day of death was Erev Pesach and they buried him Erev Pesach, then that night you're only allowed to eat the Pesach. You're not allowed to eat kachim. But if the death was on the 13th and they buried him on the 14th, there's no isser of leil kfura to eat kachim. Rav Asi amaloi kasha, kan shemeis loy meis ba'arba aser on the 14th, v'kivroi ba'arba aser, and they buried him on the 14th. So there, aninas laila is the rabbanon, and you're not allowed to eat kachim, only the Pesach. Kan shemeis loy meis b'shloisha aser, if he died on the 13th, v'kivroi ba'arba aser, and they buried him on the 14th, then he's allowed to eat kachim that night too, because Yom Kfura, the day of the burial, like toughest leila midrabanan. It doesn't answer the night even drabanan, and therefore then you're allowed to eat kachim. Says the Gemara, who holds that the aninus of night is only drabanan? Man tona aninus leila midrabanan. Who holds that the aninus of the nighttime is only rabbinical? Reb Shimoni. It's the opinion of Reb Shimon. The Tanya. Aninas laila midivrei Torah. The aninus of the night is biblical. Divrei Reb Yehuda. So according to Reb Yehuda, he wouldn't even be able to eat the korban Pesach. He would have to wait for Pesach Sheni. Reb Shimon, I'm einin eina midivrei Torah, ela midivrei Seifim. Teda, you should know, Shari Amro, einin toivel, he could immerse himself oicheles pischol erev, avaloi bekachim, but not other kachim. Says the Gemara, v'savar Reb Shimon aninas laila is midrabana. Does Reb Shimon hold the aninus of the nighttime is rabbinical? V'atanya, Reb Shimon Aimer, Einin Eina Mishaleach Karbonaisa. An Einin cannot send with a shliach his karbanas to eat it in the night, when his aninus will be over. Doesn't that imply even the carbon Pesach? My lava afilu b'Pesach. Says Gemara loy levar me Pesach. No, besides the Pesach. I v'tanya Reb Shimon Aimer Shlamim. It says in the pasuk Shlamim. Shlamim means the peace offering, but it also means whole. And we darshan kushalei mevi. He could only bring it when he's whole. The ain't a mevi kishu aina. He can't bring it when he's broken, when he's an aina. Now I only know that that's true by a shlamim. Minayin l'rabbis says atoida. How do I know to include also the Thanksgiving offering? Ma'abani es atoida shekein necheles b'simcha kishlamim. It's also eaten with joy, Thanksgiving, like a shlamim, and therefore it makes sense that you don't do it with an aina. Minayin l'rabbi says a burnt offering. Ma'abani es ha'oila shekein ba b'neder b'nedava kishlamim. It's brought with a neder and a nedava, and that was a free will offering, a neder, a Hari Alai variety, and a nedava, the Hari Zev variety. Minayin l'rabbis b'charu meiser of Pesach. How do I know to include b'char meiser in Pesach? Here's the kasha, because it says that it's including that you're not allowed to send the Pesach. Ma'abani b'charu meiser Pesach shekein einon ban alachet. They're like shlamim. They don't come for sin. Menayin l'rabbis chatas v'ashim, a sin offering and guilt offering. Talmud Leimer, it says zevach. Menayin l'rabbis ha'oifais v'amenachais, that an einin can't send these, v'yayin and wine, v'eitzim and a wood offering, v'alavayna and a frankincense offering. Talmud Leimer shlomim karbonoi. Kol karbonoi shum mevi. Any carbon that he wants to bring, kishalei mevi, v'eina mevi kishuayin. The bottom line is, it says the Pesach. So you see that even the Pesach he's not allowed to send, which implies that he holds that Aninas, Laila is Daraisa. Tani Mia Pesach. Amrav Chista Pesach Kedinasva. It was just put in the list because it's usually in other lists, but over here it doesn't apply. Because he could send his carbon Pesach, because the Pesach is an Isser Karas. Rav Sheishis Amar, no. When it says Pesach, it doesn't mean the carbon Pesach. The carbon Pesach, you could bring, you could send, because it's an Issachar. When it says Pesach, it means Shalmei Pesach. Remember, we said that you have to register on the Pesach. So here, Ruvain has in his house 60 people registered on his carbon Pesach. There's not going to be enough food for them to eat it a la seiva. In order to make sure that he has enough food, he also brings a shlamim. That's called the Chagigas Arba Asar. That shlamim, the einin can't send to eat in the night. It's called a Shalmei, my Pesach, Shalmei Pesach. Says the Gemara, well, Ihachi Hainu Shlamim. That's included in Shlamim. Why do I need to include Pesach? Tan Shlamim Abba Machmas Pesach. It says Shlamim, which comes with the Pesach. V'tan Shlamim Abba Machmas Atzman. Because if it didn't say the Shlamim of the night of Pesach, the Eloi Tan Shlamim Abba Machmas Pesach, so Kedai Tachamina, I might think, Hoyul Machmas Pesach Asi, since it comes so that the Pesach should be Nechal ala Saiva, maybe Kigufe the Pesach dummy, and just like the Einin is allowed to eat the Pesach because it's an Issachar, maybe he's allowed to eat the Shalmei Pesach too. Kamash Malan, that no, he's not allowed to send it for the Einin, the Shlamim of Pesach. Okay, we'll stop over here. Rabbi say tomorrow's shir is normal at 8 o'clock, and we'll see what's going to be Tuesday. Who knows? Maybe we'll have a special shir. I'll be up to it. But this way, we are a blot ahead. Thank you very much for coming. I want to wish everybody a Gemar Chasima Tova Masuka on this Zayis Chanukah.